Well, the landscape has changed. According to Triple H, that's what he told us anyway, that the landscape was about to change in WWE. And to his credit, we did get some of that on Monday night with Logan Paul's return, and not just his return, but a massive angle that he's now involved in, essentially taking the place of Seth Rollins. After brawling with Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker early in the night, Logan Paul then joins the Vision and essentially becomes their new leader, dare I say? After the brass knucks shot to CM Punk that was sold very well, looked great. I know that a lot of people looked at this as a disappointment. Well, we had other things going on Raw too. I mean, it wasn't just Logan Paul, but I honestly have tapered my expectations down when Triple H says, you ain't seen nothing yet. Landscape's changed. We've heard this before. We've heard this rhetoric before from Triple H. We've heard it. And when people hear those words, they think massive blow up. Show's going to feel different. Big shakeup, new champions, massive returns. You're thinking the works. And remember, they have a formula that works. They are not going to blow up their formula, their system, because the fans like whine and cry online about the same things and being predictable. When they say change the landscape, guys, what that really means in layman's terms, we're going to change. Some bigger things are coming, but the general formula is staying the same. That's what that means. People are not going to get a totally reinvented, reimagined product from production to promos to matches to it's not happening. So I think, again, guys, when you hear this kind of rhetoric from Triple H, remember it probably means they have a fairly big angle coming. That's kind of what that means. But they're not going to change how they do business. That's just not the case. Now, I will say before we get going, they recently had really bad ticket sales. And I'm sure you saw this story. It was floating around WWE. The SmackDown ticket sales were horrible. And they were also disappointed by Saturday Night Main Event ticket sales. Okay. Here's according to Fightful. It says that Fightful Select reported that WWE executives are not happy with the turnout for Saturday Night Main Event in Salt Lake City. Despite offering a stacked card with 2 world championships on the line, WrestleTix reported that only 7,800 tickets were distributed with a venue that can hold 8,000. And attendance just shy of 8,000 is far from the company's 2025 average of 11 to 12,000 for major shows. The SmackDown show from Halloween night also struggled with attendance, drawing a smaller than average crowd for the company's TV average for the year as well. Fans were reportedly moved down to lower sections at Saturday Night Main Event to make the venue appear more full on TV than it actually was. So, first of all, is it encouraging that fans are not going to SmackDown? Well, it's Halloween night, right? So you have people that are going to say, it doesn't look like it's a big event. John Cena's not going to be there. You know the stars that are going to be there usually before you go to the show. And you're thinking, hey, I got Halloween. Maybe you got kids. Maybe you're thinking, hey, it's going to be a lot cheaper for me to stay at home, help and go around with my kids to trick or treat. So it's not surprising that a Halloween version of SmackDown was sparsely attended because of that. However, the more encouraging sign for me is the Saturday Night Main Event that was also, in their terms, sparsely attended. What this means is, and again, it's a very small sample size, very small, because this is just a couple of shows. But if this trend continues, it's encouraging because fans may be finally fighting back the company on their exorbitant ticket prices. Because, as we know, Mark Shapiro, the president of TKO, recently has said, like a month or two ago, that Vince McMahon is pricing for families, or did price for families and didn't maximize revenue. Meaning we ain't pricing for families anymore. That could be at times or a change in, because fans could say, hey, screw you. We're not buying the tickets. And if we're not buying the tickets because we can't afford to go, and I want to bring my family, but I can't afford it. And if you're going to make me choose between going into debt or financing ticket prices or just staying at home and watching for free, well, I'm going to choose the latter. Fans are starting to do that, especially those with families. And it is also really idiotic for them to do that because while sure, you may not make more money in the moment, you're also selling more seats because those kids have to have seats. So it's either you get 3 or 4 ticket sales or you get none, or you get one ticket sale for every 3 because maybe only that one person can afford it and they're not bringing a family. So it's just themselves that they have to worry about. And you're also helping build the next generation of fan. It's just a stupid strategy just to bolster the bottom line in the short term. I've gone over that. But is this a sign that the tide could be turning on WWE, where they finally have gotten pushback from fans beyond the complaining online that we all do about the ticket prices? Maybe. Again, I need a larger sample size. 2 shows ain't going to cut it. But if you're looking for a starting point of maybe the tide turning, this could be it. So I'm encouraged by this. Not that I want WWE to go out of business. I want them to get a punch in the mouth, figuratively, from the fans and a big middle finger for the prices of tickets that they have pushed to the moon as of over the last 12 to 18 months. So, okay, let's get back to it. We'll get back to her in a minute. I want to just welcome you to the show and also say, hey, if you're looking for more content like this, ad-free, patreon.com/WWE podcast is a good place to go, as well as Apple Podcasts. We have a ad-free version there as well. If you click on the subscribe button, we're also still looking for various hosts for After Dark or NXT. Both are still open if anybody's interested in being a part of the show. After Dark, of course, is the adult version of the show. It's only available on Patreon. That will be pushed out to patrons once we have a host. And I mean, hey, you can really talk about pretty much anything within reason. And it's pretty fun. I mean, it's a great way to vent or kind of have some self-therapy, if you will, about wrestling or any other topic. As well as I said, the NXT host as well. Both are open. If you're interested, email me, mailbag@wwepodcast.com. Okay. So let's get into Monday Night Raw. As we know, a big show here in terms of storyline. And we're going to start right at the top here because, as expected, CM Punk opens the show. And he's slapping a bunch of hands on the way to the ring. Crowd was chanting for Punk. And he said, is it great to be champ on a Monday night in the great state of New Mexico or what? And he said that there were a lot of people he needed to thank. A "You deserve it" chant broke out. And he said that he appreciated the sentiment, but they would discuss the difference between earned and deserved. So let me get back to my notes here. I lost them. He said that, he thanked his wife. I don't know why. I don't know what she had to do with anything. I'm guessing for the moral support or something. I'm not sure. But wherever AJ is, by the way, I know a lot of people are disappointed. Where the hell's AJ? I'm not freaking out about it. I don't mind AJ kind of being a standby big star that they can bring back at any moment to help to bolster the women's division. I never expected her to be back full time. I did admittedly expect her to be back on some kind of part-time every other month basis. Seems to be even more sparse than that. I hope this isn't a one-off for AJ, but at the same time, I don't want her full time. So maybe they're finding a sweet spot here. I fully expect her to be a part of the Royal Rumble, maybe even Survivor Series as part of the War Games match for the women. We'll see. But I know there's a lot of angry people out there, or disappointed, probably. So Punk listed several positives about AJ, including that she has an ass that won't quit. Yes, because certainly that is a big part of the reason that CM Punk is champion is because of his wife's rear end. Yes, certainly. I don't know. I'm going to be set on a place I probably shouldn't go, but that's just stupid. I know he's complimenting his wife. That was completely unnecessary though. And it just, I think, undercut his first words as champion to talk about his wife's ass. Really? So he thanked the fans and encouraged them to give themselves a round of applause. For what? What did we do? I don't know. This to me is one of the worst things that a champion can do is thank us. No. Like, just stop. It feels very pandering. Very pandering. Not my personal favorite way a champion first comes out and, gives us their address. I would like a much more just, hey, here's my mission. Here's what I'm accomplished. Here's what I'm going to move forward with. Instead of like thanking us. What did we do again? All right. But Punk thanked Jey Uso for the match and said he hopes they can still be friends. And he recalled saying that he wasn't back to make friends. He was there to make money and win championships, which is, of course, nonsense. I'm sorry I'm ripping Punk's promo apart here. It's not very old school CM Punk here. This is a different version of CM Punk, the one that is much more corporate and soft and friendly. And now he's telling us he's not back to make friends. Actually, Punk, from everything we're hearing about everybody in these real shoot interviews, no, you are doing the exact opposite. You are certainly towing the company line. You are the embodiment of what you used to fight against, actually. I don't want to hear. You're speaking out of both sides of your mouth. You are certainly there trying to make friends or be friendly at the very least. And if you weren't, then you would be out of the company because of your first go around, didn't go so well with very infamously back in 2012. We know. So moving on. I didn't think I'd be ripping apart the promo so much, but now that I see it in writing, it's soft and gooey. It's the anti-establishment champion that's pretending to be anti-establishment against a person that he used to fight against. Okay, that made no sense. But Punk said he doesn't know how much time he has left, but his brief title reign before Seth cashed in Money in the Bank taught him he needs to hold on to the title as hard as he can. I hate to pick this apart. I mean, again, I when I was listening to this, I didn't think that there'd be this many criticisms of it. And here you go. If you guys want to write in the comments, I'm sure many of you will. This dude hates wrestling. All that. I love wrestling, but I'm calling it like I see it. And this particular beginning of the promo was horrible, in my opinion. Now, he's telling us that he needs to hold on to the title as hard as he can because he doesn't know how much time he has left. So wait a minute. That's what taught him. Wouldn't you just instinctively know, even if you're a rookie? Like, yeah, of course you do. Why would you not? I mean, that's just something that anybody day one would know. Hey, I want to hold on to the title. Yeah, I'm going to win it, and then I'm going to just kind of be loosey-goosey with it. What? So Punk asked the crowd to indulge him. This part was actually kind of funny. He swung the belt over his head, and he said that was for you, Seth, and he wished Rollins a speedy recovery, and that if Rollins gets in his business when he returns, he'd send him back to the couch. So, I mean, okay, so he ends on a much stronger note, doing the swinging of the championship, the infamous swinging that Seth Rollins has done, and we've seen many iconic moments of it. I believe even WrestleMania 31 was the most iconic moment when he cashed in on Brock and Roman Reigns. And so that was kind of a fun moment, and one that I'm sure we will revisit in 5.5 months when Seth comes back, maybe just in time for WrestleMania. Hopefully. So then Punk spoke of having a target on him and said there are a lot of people he'd like to punch in the face. He mentioned Braun Breaker, Bronson Reed, and Heyman. And he also mentioned AJ Styles and JD McDonough, Finn Balor, Sheamus, and John Cena. And he closed by saying the champ is here. Just kind of an homage to John Cena. And that's when Logan Paul made his entrance. And then he said the two words that I don't need to hear, but I told you we hear from every time a babyface wins a championship. Every time. It's required by law, by WWE law, that no matter what your star status is, how long you've been with the company, how you won the championship, you must mention by law or be imprisoned that you're going to be a fighting champion. Okay, let me just say this just very bluntly. Okay. And turn the volume down for the kids. If you got kids, I've given you a warning. If you're a babyface in WWE, no shit that you're going to be a fighting champion. I don't need to be told that's one of your attributes so that we like you more and you're not going to be cowardly defending the championship. We've seen babyface champions enough over the last 30 years, I would argue, or longer. That's as long as I've been watching anyway. That when you're a babyface champion, that's just baked into what you are and how you defend the belt. You just all comers, anybody. You want some, come get some. Just bring it. The Rock, right? Go down the list. Austin was a fighting champion, right? We understand that. And what that means is just you don't turn down any challenges. And so, yeah, no shit. I don't need to be told by somebody, especially the level of CM Punk, who's a first ballot Hall of Famer, borderline in some circles, legend. I would not put him in legend status. I know some people would. I wouldn't. I'd put him in Hall of Fame, certainly. But I don't need to be told that he's going to be a fighting champion. I also don't even like the fact that babyfaces by default are fighting champions. I've said this before too, but I'll reiterate because it's being shoved in my face again. The reason I don't like me being told that is because it makes the babyface look stupid. You fought so hard to scratch and claw to get this championship. In CM Punk's case, it took him 2 years after he came back to the company to win it. And now you're just based on what the definition of fighting champion means to WWE. You're just going to allow anybody that challenges you for the championship to just get an opportunity, right? That's what that means. You're not going to back down. That to me is actually disrespectful to the championship that you fought so hard to win or to defend or whatever the case is. Because now you're allowing anybody, just anybody, to come in and, hey, I'll challenge you. Okay. Championship matches should be earned, not just given. And when you say you're going to be a defending champion, it means that you're just going to give them away, essentially. That's the definition of fighting champion according to WWE babyface lore. I know a lot of people don't look at it that way and they think I'm overthinking it. I'm not. Being a fighting champion means that you should, and here's what it should mean. You don't back down from fights. You don't back down from challenges. But it doesn't mean every time somebody challenges you for a championship, you put it on the line because they want you to. Or they attacked you from behind. Or turned on you. Or screwed you in some way. They suddenly earned that championship opportunity? No, you shouldn't have to do that. You also shouldn't have to go seeking out people, which you've seen so many times with WWE's babyface champions. They go seek out people to defend it against as if they feel everyone's deserving. No, they're not. The elite should challenge for championships in their respective brands and divisions. Intercontinental Championship. This goes for United States Championship, Tag Team Championships. Everybody should not just get an opportunity because they are requesting one. And the definition today, and has been for a long time, of being a fighting champion is ridiculous. And it devalues the championship on the get-go. Actually, I would argue when heels hold the belts, the championship value increases more often than not because they don't just give out championship opportunities unless they're forced to. In a lot of ways, that's smarter. That's not cowardly. There's nothing wrong with not putting your championship on the line, but also still defending your pride. So you can still have a match, but it doesn't have to be a title match. What did that person do to deserve it? What exactly are you defending here? Simply just WWE's definition of what you should do as a babyface. That's what it is. Drew McIntyre said when he won it at WrestleMania 36. CM Punk says it here. Seth Rollins, when he was a babyface champion, world champion, he said it many times. Just go down the list and take a look at that individual's first promo when they won a world championship or the Undisputed Championship. Cody Rhodes, of course, said it. He said it many, many, many times. It is a horrible thing to say. I know why they say it, but you shouldn't have to say it. I don't even like the fact that it's enacted, much less transparently said by every babyface champion who wins the championship. So, okay. But I mean, again, no one's immune to this crap. Okay. So CM Punk is confronted by Logan Paul. Punk told Paul to go to SmackDown, where Dragunov is having an open challenge. And Punk said that's more Paul's lane. And he said, anyone, the noble CM Punk, a man of his word, right? And Paul said once he was inside the ring, he mentioned several stars he wrestled and then boasted he beat AJ Styles at WrestleMania. I'm glad he brought that back up because I'd forgotten. Paul Heyman walked onto the stage with Reed and Breakker. And he told Paul that the front of the line belongs to the man who pinned Roman Reigns. And Heyman introduced Reed. And Heyman said that the front of the line belongs to the future of WrestleMania, Braun Breaker. And said that Punk was 2 days into his title reign and 430 days shy of the record. Heyman said he wasn't the one who lost the championship and Heyman told Paul, or Punk, he was in the ring at the wrong place, wrong time, and told him to leave, but he didn't. And then Breakker and Reed attacked Punk. We had Logan Paul get shoved down by Breakker. And they end up beating down CM Punk. And then Reed hits a tsunami splash on Logan Paul, who came in and actually, tried to defend himself against Reed and Breakker. And then Punk comes in, hits I think it was Reed with a chair, and they were, dispatched from the ring. So, I was very interested beyond the fact that they did a nice swerve here of you're thinking, no way, Logan Paul's not going to join anybody. He just got in a fist fight and it was tsunami'd. The first time that we saw Logan Paul get in the ring, I mean, that was the first time he had his kind of quick babyface moment. I can see this dude in, I don't know, maybe a year's time or more. I mean, there's a lot of heel to get out of Logan Paul. There's more to go. But I will say there's a big babyface underneath all that. Huge. And that was the first time I felt, oh, wow, I'm getting behind Logan Paul here. It was an interesting feeling. One that I'm like, all right, I can see this. And it wasn't time. And I agree. We shouldn't turn him face yet. But that was the first time I watched him get in the ring. I'm like, oh, wait. He's getting double teamed and you have sympathy for him. And it was just the first time. And it was all just a tease for what's to come. Inevitably, there's no question he's going to turn babyface. But I would argue that you've got a year or more until you really seriously consider it, because he's got the youth. He's got the drive. He's got the ability, more than the ability. And he, at that point, by the time he takes his lumps and bumps and you boo him for another year, at that point, fans are gonna be like, all right, we're ready, man. You've shown us you're for real. You're not just a YouTube star. You can kill it on the mic. You've killed it in the ring. You've performed at a very high level on multiple occasions. We're here. We're ready. Let's go. And I can see that happening again. Not yet. We've got time, but it's there. At least you took a peek behind the curtain and you saw it. And I liked what I saw. So it's going to be exciting down the line. I'm excited to see, what plays out there. So, all right. Now we know the big swerve that happens at the end, but we'll talk about that towards the end of the show. We have the Women's World Champion Stephanie Vaquer and Nikki Bella take on Raquel Rodriguez and Roxanne Perez. The match went 12 minutes and 40 seconds, with the finish being Nikki blocking Perez's attempt to roll her up by sitting down on her and getting a 2 count. Rodriguez hit Nikki from the floor while the referee was focused on Perez, who then hit Pop Rocks, which is a great looking finish, and got the victory. So Raquel and Roxanne beat Vaquer and Nikki Bella, as I said, in 12 minutes and 40 seconds. Good match. Really good match from all 4 women, including, yes, I will compliment Nikki Bella. She has shown that she is here to play. And it's not just her stripper dance that she does when she comes down, which is still, to me, abominable. Not that I'm offended by it or pretending to be offended by it, but to me, it's, it's something that I don't think is becoming of what the women's division has represented over the last 10 years from the women's evolution. She is still a diva in a women's world, but she's shown that she's here to play. And I think she's generally in the ring done a good job. So credit to Nikki, credit to Raquel and Stephanie Vaquer and Roxanne. I enjoyed this. Okay, we got another video airing of John Cena's Last Time Is Now 16-man tournament. That's going to start next week. And we then had CM Punk walking backstage. He was approached by Jey Uso, who said he knew he'd been all over the place, but something in his heart was telling him to help. Punk asked who he was talking to, and Jey said he appreciated the fight on Saturday and referred to Punk as the best in the world. Jey said Braun Breaker and Reed would be coming after him after he had won, and he asked Punk to let him help. Punk said he would go get his gear, and they bumped fists. So all is well that ends well, I guess, there with Jey and Punk. Jey could certainly still turn heel. Maybe they're getting us off the trail by pretending that all's well here, and then eventually we get a turn. But the turn happened, obviously, with someone a little different. If you can even call Logan Paul's moment there a turn, again, we'll talk about it. Penta and El Grande Americano then had a match, and that went 10 minutes and 20 seconds. The finish was Penta coming in and Americano went for a flying headbutt with the loaded mask. But Penta kicked him and then jumped from the middle rope, hit him with a Mexican destroyer before getting the 3 count. So Penta ends up beating El Grande Americano in a 10-minute and 20-minute match. Penta, huge over here with the New Mexico crowd. And the flying headbutt spot was interesting, I have to say. But it was executed as well and as safely as it could possibly be. That's a move that's a finish you don't want to put in slow motion. It will be embarrassingly bad to watch, but in real time, it was fine. It was fine. These two, you could watch them do a 30-minute, 40-minute match, and it's going to be just a blast. So fun match here. And again, with the New Mexico crowd, Penta was the right person to win. All right, so the Kabuki Warriors were featured in a video and subtitles were used while they spoke in Japanese. Asuka said everybody has to accept that she's the one true legend of the women's division. And Sane said Bayley should be thankful that Asuka showed mercy, but it wouldn't be forever. And Asuka spoke of winning the women's tag team titles. And then we get Dominic Mysterio coming out to a babyface reaction. And he spoke briefly and talked about his success and nobody can stop him. That's when Rey Mysterio comes out. And this is where things get weird because a daddy's home comment was made by Tessitore, which was funny. And Rey was in the ring and fans chanted Holy S. Again, I know they're in New Mexico. I get it. It wasn't really a Holy S moment. I mean, I don't think it was warranted of the Holy S moment, but I get it, I guess. So Rey said Dom looked surprised, and he had to draw the line when Dom claimed to be the king of luchadors. And Rey said that Dom insults their family, their name, and their blood when he makes that claim. And Rey asked about El Santo, Blue Demon, and Eddie Guerrero, and fans popped big for Eddie and chanted his name. And Rey asked if Dom thinks he's better than them. Which, first of all, the fact that Eddie Guerrero, 20 years after his death, 20, still gets the reaction that he does by just mere mention of his name is incredible. I would argue, and I'll still continue to argue this, Eddie Guerrero may have been one of the most impactful wrestling deaths among almost any. Bigger than Hogan, bigger than Owen Hart, bigger than Macho Man, bigger than the Ultimate Warrior. Okay, I mean, I'm just mentioning a few off the top of my head. Bigger than China. Just there's something about Eddie that just impacted so many of us. So many. And I just, I continue to just be shocked and kind of impressed that every time Eddie Guerrero is mentioned, he gets a big reaction as if he's going to come back. And we're actually coming up on the 20-year anniversary, November 13th. So we've got 9 days, and obviously, I'm sure still tough for Vicky Guerrero. It's for sure, So Anyway, moving on. So we then had Dom say that you keep my father's name out of your mouth, which was funny about Eddie Guerrero, referring to Eddie. Dom said he is better than everyone Rey mentioned. And Dom said he knows for a fact that he's better than Rey, who said that Dom could respect him, but he wouldn't let him disrespect Lucha Libre. And Dom accused Rey of being jealous, and he said he's even stealing his mustache. Dom said Rey was just there to cash in because he made the Mysterio name relevant. And Dom said that he'd already surpassed everything Rey had done in every way, shape, and form. And Dom asked if he had to kick Rey's ass again. Dom told Rey to listen to the King of Luchadors and get out of the ring. Rey said he would, but he said as long as he's around, Dom would never be the greatest luchador. It wouldn't be in his ring, and Dom wouldn't be the greatest Mysterio. It ends up with a 619 on Dom, who then escapes from the dropping of the dime. This was great. A lot of fun. Seeing these two back together in the ring after a little bit of time was fun. And also the dynamic now of Dom being in transition of a baby from heel to babyface is quite interesting, because you have Rey, one of the most beloved luchador, if not the most famous luchador of all time, going now face to face with a family member that he was interlocked in such a personal, horrific rivalry that you're thinking, okay, maybe it's been enough time where suddenly Rey is going to be okay with Dom and try to bring him back into the fold because he's starting to transition to a babyface. No. And I have mixed feelings about this segment. Not that it wasn't good. It was really good. But my feelings about should they have done this only because Dom's in transition and making headway and a lot of momentum. And I have said, don't screw with that. Just leave him on his course to be a babyface. He's on the right track. I hope this doesn't really interfere with that, because Rey is still more popular than Dom. The fans' allegiance will still side with Rey and be on Rey's side because of his legacy and just the logic of it. That, when you remember what Dom did, you're like, oh yeah. But also, I'm glad that Rey didn't just forgive him. It makes sense that he didn't just suddenly flip. That he's still like, no, screw you. I remember this. That's good. I appreciate that logic, but also at the same time, I'm a bit concerned that it may have started to derail the great momentum and progress that has been made about Dom, being embraced by the fans. But still, all in all, I mean, either way, it still ended up in a really good segment. Okay. So we have then, let's see, we have Women's Intercontinental Champion Becky Lynch remove her hood. She delivered a promo while standing on the broadcast table. And Lynch said Maxine Dupree is empowered by the idiot fans who make her feel like she belongs when she doesn't. And that she's a lifelong student of the game. And she told Dupree that this isn't a test she can cram for, and said one wrong move would be her last. Welcome to the big time. Fine, good promo there. No complaints there, no criticisms. We then have the Kabuki Warriors come out, who took on Bayley and Lyra, and the match went fairly long in terms of women's matches. 14 minutes and 5 seconds with the Kabuki Warriors beating Bayley and Lyra. The finish was Asuka shoving Valkyria into Bayley, who was knocked off the apron, and then Asuka caught Valkyria in the Asuka lock for the submission victory. And then after the match, we had Charlotte and Alexa run out and dressed in matching leather skirts, and Asuka and Sane exited the ring. And so I will say the Kabuki Warriors getting the victory, right move. Bayley and Lyra continue to have miscommunications. I'm glad. Maybe, are we past the voices in Bayley's head? Perhaps. It didn't really have a long shelf life. You knew that. It is interesting, but the way they presented it, as you could hear what's in her head, wasn't going to last long. It's not we're not watching a sitcom. You have to actually get in the ring live, and you can't produce those effects, obviously, the way that those pre-taped promos did when she was hearing voices in her head. So I hope this is just fading away, and maybe she's just Bayley right now. I don't know. But also Alexa and Charlotte, I think part of what's really working here too, yes, Alexa is beloved by the fans. It's really impossible to hate Alexa. But also, we have not seen a queen entrance in a long time, right? Where she's the queen, she's bowing, telling people to bow down to her. And she's she's a goddess among women that we must cherish the very grass that she walks on. That has all gone by the wayside. And she's also her attire choices are also helping. She's in a very good spot with Alexa. I don't need either one to turn on the other at any point. And whenever this team does dissolve, and it will, I don't need one turning on the other. They can just dissolve without incident. It can be done. It doesn't happen often, but it can be done. All right. So we then have Raquel Rodriguez and Roxanne celebrating as they entered the Judgment Day clubhouse. Yes, that's still a thing. Perez announced that Rodriguez would get a shot at the Women's World Championship next week. So that's something. Again, nice matchup for next week. Dominic Mysterio entered the room and complained about his deadbeat dad and where the hell everyone was. Dom asked Balor and McDonough, and Balor said they could have helped if they had been invited, but Dom wanted to do it all by himself. And Balor handed Dom the shillelagh he took from Sheamus and told them to keep it safe while they went to get the World Tag Team titles back. And Dom asked the ladies what was up with Balor and McDonough, and Rodriguez said Dom was the reason that Balor and McDonough had to defend the titles. So moving on. AJ Styles and Dragon Lee versus Finn Balor and JD McDonough for the World Tag Team titles. A fairly quick match. This certainly could have gone longer. It was only 10.5 minutes with AJ Styles and Dragon Lee winning, as they should have. Fine match, with the finish being Styles hitting McDonough, or pulled McDonough off the ropes and hit him with a clash. Got the victory. You knew that AJ and Dragon Lee weren't going to drop the belts here, especially given the fact that Judgment Day is on, it's on life support in terms of interest from the fans and the general audience. This group is on life support. Individually, they're not. Just as a team, there's kind of nothing more to do. Again, unless we're all waiting for Liv Morgan to come back and see what the dynamic is there, maybe. But AJ Styles and Dragon Lee winning, they should have. They're a great team to watch, a fun team to watch. AJ, this maybe, if not could be, and likely may be, AJ's final title run in WWE. I know he's got about a year left from what we understand. He could have a run with a top belt or a mid-card belt, but this maybe almost assuredly is his final tag team title run, because I don't see AJ over the next year after John Cena retires and then the focus shifts to AJ, which I don't need a full year to celebrate. I mean, I just don't. I don't care who you are. It could be his final WWE tag team title run at the very least. So we have then, let's see here, some backstage stuff with Heyman and Jay. Keep going here. It's just, I don't need to do a play-by-play on that. If you saw Raw, you saw it. But let's go to Adam Pearce. He announced Rusev versus Damian Priest and Shinsuke versus Sheamus as the first two matches in John Cena's Last Time Is Now tournament. And Nick Aldis would draw names for the next two tournament matches during Friday Night SmackDown. So that means that we have, at least as of last night, 4 of the 16 men announced. And by Friday, we'll have 8 of the 16, half, announced. And then presumably by the end of next week, we'll have all 16 men who have been revealed in the tournament. Now, I have proposed that perhaps none of those 16 men will be the one to win and face John Cena. Because if you want to make Edge a surprise, you don't make him a part of the tournament until the last second with some kind of feigned injury or wackiness. I don't really care. This tournament is a exhibition that has no consequence whatsoever other than who faces John Cena. So you can kind of play with the fans here. It doesn't have to be somebody in this tournament to actually win. It can be Edge as a replacement. There's been a last minute change. You think it's going to be this person versus this person. One of them gets injured. Adam Pearce comes out and says, luckily I was able to make a couple phone calls or whatever. You think you know me. Edge is the replacement for somebody being injured in the final. That's how I would do it, which means it's the right way to do it. I'm being half serious. But think about that, though, because you don't want Edge competing in 4 matches. Why would you want that? Kind of takes the specialness out of it. And you want Edge to be a final surprise. And then, of course, he wins the match and boom, you get Edge and John Cena. So if you have Edge in there, if he's a part of it, how can he not be? You bring him in last second as a replacement for an injury. There. I think I've made it pretty abundantly clear. Okay, but nonetheless, Shinsuke and Sheamus and Rusev and Damian Priest. Hey, how can you complain about those matches? How can you complain about it? Okay, so next week in Boston. Here we go. John Cena is appearing in Boston next week. I believe the TD Garden. Rusev and Damian Priest takes place. Shinsuke Nakamura and Sheamus takes place. And we get, let's see here, some other stuff. We got, Charlotte and Alexa taking on the Kabuki Warriors for the women's tag team titles. And Stephanie Vaquer versus Raquel Rodriguez for the world championship. So big night on Monday night in Boston next week. They got a pretty stacked card and the show hasn't even started. So if you got a ticket to Boston and Boston's Raw, you're going to have a blast. Okay. We got CM Punk and Jey Uso taking on Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed. 2 minutes into the match, Jey dove over the top rope onto Breaker and Reed, because of course. And the match went 10 minutes and 15 seconds, but it was a double count out. After the match, Punk cleared the broadcast table, put Reed on top of it. Punk gave Jey instructions. Jey went to do whatever Punk asked, but Breaker speared him. Reed recovered and put Punk down. Reed went up top, hit Jey with a tsunami. Punk came in with a chair, sent Breaker and Reed scurrying to the floor. Breaker and Reed reached under the ring and pulled out 2 chairs of their own. And then Logan Paul comes in and stood by Punk, showing off he was wearing brass knucks. He nodded at Punk, and just as Punk was about to attack Reed and Breaker, he punched Punk with the brass knucks. And then Heyman stood in front of Breaker and Reed and said, "Your move." And he removed the brass knucks and handed them to Heyman. And the fans chanted, "F you, Logan." And that was it. Heyman smiled. So the finish here, I mean, I had no issue with this. The person who wrote this analysis or wrote this review and gave their analysis said, quote, "The main event finish was weak, but the angle with Logan Paul was nicely done. Paul may have a, quote, he's an a-hole, but he's our a-hole babyface run someday. But I like the idea of aligning with him with the vision right now. If Paul is the first in line for a title shot, the reactions of Breaker and Reed will be interesting." I mean, I'll say this. Yeah, look, double countouts are frustrating finishes in a lot of ways. I don't generally like to use them, but there are use cases for them. This is a use case for it. You don't need a finish here, because it's about Logan Paul. It wasn't about who won and lost this match. And it's also a clear message that Jey Uso is probably being pushed down a peg. You would think. I could be wrong, and he could totally turn still, and we're all surprised. But I think Jey Uso, while he still competed in the main event and tagged with Punk, is, I think, being de-escalated by a rung or 2. That's just my analysis. But having Logan Paul get the first title shot and Reed and Breaker are supposed to stand by, that's going to be interesting. Is he the official replacement leader of the Vision while Seth is out? Maybe. It is a fun dynamic. It gives, for the first time ever, Logan Paul a faction to work with and one of the best talkers of all time to work with in Paul Heyman. So how does that dynamic work? How does Paul Heyman hype up Logan Paul? It's it's new. We all love new, don't we? I like it. I like this. And it is new. Does it, quote, change the landscape? Well, again, as I opened the show with, you need to ratchet down your expectations of what changing a landscape means, because By definition, every single show changes the landscape of WWE. No matter how boring it may be perceived to be, you're changing the landscape just by definition of having a show, because something has to happen in the matches. Someone has to win and lose. Thereby, you're changing the wins and losses and maybe who could be being pushed, who could be getting a title shot. As small as those victories or losses may be, it's still changing the landscape by definition. So we need to be very careful when we hear Triple H use this verbiage. All right. And just kind of take down our expectations. Anyway, I thought it was an overall a noteworthy Raw. Did I tear apart Punk's promo a little bit too long at the beginning of the show? Probably. But reading it back after listening to it, there were things I missed and things that I'm now annoyed with I didn't know I was annoyed with. So certainly interesting as we move along here, and on this election day, which, by the way, hope you voted. I know it's an off year, not exactly a super exciting election day unless you're in New York City or Virginia or New Jersey where they're holding gubernatorial races. Next year, obviously, being midterms, a little bit more exciting. And then, of course, we can ramp up to 2028 with the next presidential election. So definitely an off year, not exactly super exciting, and not a ton going on again, unless you're in those states. But still election day nonetheless. Some of you had it off. Maybe you got a floating holiday like I did if you're, with an employer that does give you that. But I hope you enjoyed the show. If you guys want to go to Patreon and go ad-free, I do ask you do that, because there's a week option for free at patreon.com/WWE podcast, or click on the subscribe button on Apple. I know most of you do listen through Apple. And if you get the yearly option, by the way, you get 2 months for free. So a little bit of an incentive to get a year's long subscription to this show if you choose to do so, because 2 months totally ad free for free. So thank you, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this. I'll be back shortly in a day or two's time with I was going to say NXT, but we don't have an NXT host. By the way, again, NXT and After Dark are both open for those who are interested. Mailbag at wwepodcast.com is where you send your intent. So thank you, everybody. I'll be back soon, probably some nostalgic episodes and maybe some video along with it for you patrons. So we'll talk soon. Take care.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to wwepodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.